Okay, my name is Trent Herbst. I am a sixth grade teacher and I also teach language arts for fifth and sixth grade. I'm going to give you a quick rundown of what I did with my online learning platform. I'm going to start off with my communication. My parent communication started off with Class Dojo, but I soon learned it had limitations. I communicated with my students through Gmail, and then I had individual phone calls with parents. Also, I was emailing them through my Outlook. Actually, the communication became a mess because I started out with Dojo, and then I ended up using Canvas. So then the kids were communicating with me through Dojo, Gmail, and my Outlook email. So that was the only one thing I would change. I would probably move to just one way of communicating. I would probably just communicate through Canvas, and then figure out a way to contact the parents through there. My grading feedback, you can see I have it over here. Once the kids did an assignment through one of my pages, it would be synchronized to my PowerSchool. So in my PowerSchool, the grades would show up, and I actually wrote my report cards off of there. I also had, the kids learned how to use the graded on Canvas because they had never seen Canvas before. I'm new to the district, and I spent the whole year learning PowerSchool, so this was all new to me as I came through it, and I decided to go with Canvas because it was linked to PowerSchool and it made assessment easier, especially when I was working with 80 kids. Saying that, a lot, since I teach language arts, a lot of their writing came through Gmail. So what I had to do with that is I would have to grade it by hand and then transfer it over to their PowerSchool. But this is a typical language arts lesson that I would have. So this would be my fifth graders. They would come in. They were required to do 1 hour a week of language arts and then pick one assignment. Some of them did all of it. I also had pages of extras. Some kids did that. But they had to do a a 1 hour lesson a week, and I gave times of, they could either do the creative writing project, which I would say took an hour, and they would watch the video of a writing prompt and then write about it that I would embed here, or they had to pick the grammar, which is a half hour, which is usually a Khan Academy, and then a workbook style. And then I would have spelling, which I gave a spelling pre-test every Monday, just like I did in class, and then they tested themselves and they could go look at the list and correct it themselves. So after they chose what they're going to do, they would come to the assignment page, and then they could come down. I'm going to go all the way down to, you can see the last few weeks what we had. They had to invent a sport last week. This week was shorter because we only had 2 days of classes. You introduce yourself to next year's teacher written map. So if you click on that assignment, they would go on to it. They would watch the prompt that I would have embedded, and then they would download it. They would download it on either email it to my Gmail, or they would download it right here and upload it right through Canvas. It took them a while to get used to it, but they did finally get to it by the end. My instructional materials are very different per class. I tried to use all the learning styles, so I had everything from hands-on, I had music, I had PE, I had motion, I had activity, I had basic textbook reading, I had lectures. And if you didn't like lectures, the beauty of this is you could have videos that you could pause or go back and forth, or you could have the live lecture, which I would give live lectures off and on. Every morning I had a Zoom meeting that would always be posted here. Today we had our graduation Zoom, and the click here. We also had on the home page class news, in which I would review what we said in the meeting. Sometimes I would put it here, that it was a review of what we did at the meeting if you missed it in the morning, and then I would give you a goal. I was up to going and making sure the kids had a goal every day to go through as they came through. So if you're in my homeroom, you spend a lot of time here. If you're in one of my language arts classes, you stuck to just the language arts pages. Also with my Zooms, I did a lot of inviting of people into my Zoom meetings. Tried to do it once a week. I had the community health nurse come in and talk about COVID. I had Hobo Jim come in and play music for us for a music lesson. I had Allie Ostrander come in and talk about resiliency. and I tried to, bring. I even had Amelia Earhart in. I had one of the other teachers play Amelia Earhart and come in and give a little history lesson. So I tried to, do that. We also played a lot of Jeopardy via Zoom. We had a lunchtime Zoom every Thursday where we would play Jeopardy. I would do Mad Libs, anything to try to keep them to keep coming into the meetings to come through, because it was tough for 8 weeks. Most of the time they just wanted to socialize with their friends. My attendance with the Zoom meetings was pretty high. I got a majority of my class in, but as far as handing in assignments, it was maybe 50% of the kids were actually doing the work. I think part of that is maybe the district had, once the kids realized they did not have to hand in an assignment and their grades would stay the same as third quarter, they kind of checked out on the assignment side. They would even send emails back to me, how does this affect middle school? So they were, they knew the game was up. I think that's the way we can improve it, is we hold them to a higher standard. So I have my, here I have a hands-on. Here's my science. I try to do some hands-on. I tapped the birch trees behind the school. I actually had kids come in when they were picking up their lunches, and I had a bunch of spiles for them cut, and I had them out with their lunches, and then they were able to do the experiment at home. Actually, if you go out to the golf course, you can see one of my students. He actually tapped the trees on his dad's golf course. I had about 7 or 8 kids who tapped birch trees, and then we kept track of how much sap we got, and we boiled it down online and made syrup with it. A couple of the other ones I did sourdough. I did sourdough science. We did a whole lesson on that. Kind of did a flipped classroom where they watched the lesson, a video ahead of time, and then we talked about the science behind sourdough and the history behind sourdough in Alaska. I also did a part with the Ketchikan Shorebird Festival. We went on their website, and we would participated in their online Shorebird Festival where the kids made their own slide and they added to it. I had Michelle Fry come in to teach one of my science unit was weather for this quarter. She came in and taught there she is, questions about Melissa Fry, where the kids had the right questions for her, and I had hosts for all the meetings. And then she gave a lesson on air pressure, and then I gave them an assignment with it. As far as like the hands-on, to me, the choice was a big one, because some kids really struggled with just reading, especially you look at my social studies and there's some pretty dry textbook stuff on there. So I would give them a choice between the textbook, which they were used to from the class homework assignments, where I actually downloaded the PDFs and I had the questions here and they had to answer them in a text box. Or what I did is, especially my kids who were weaker readers, I would have discussions where I would have the video. Here is it was how geography affects Africa. They would watch it and they would have to write a discussion, and then they could read each other as part of the discussion group, and I would allow that as part of it. The kids were used to doing current events in my class, and I kept that assignment up every week where they had to read about current events. I gave them a list of places to look, and then they had to write their 3-paragraph essay on it, so I could keep them writing over this quarter in social studies. My language arts were more creative writing, and then I had a grammar part, and I would have a spelling. But that's pretty much my my overview. I also did one-on-one lessons in the afternoon for those who wanted one-on-one lectures of the textbook readings that were there, and I would help them go over, and I kind of extended their work. And overall, it was a pretty success. I think it was considering we put it together in 1 or 2 weeks, and it was a work in progress. So the whole week, some kids are still handing in assignments. I think that, cobbled it together in that 1 week, we did a pretty decent job. And I'm actually going to use Canvas in my class next year, live, whether I'm live or whether I'm online. So thank you for all your help and the opportunity. I appreciate it.